there's all this talk about the one big beautiful bill. What about the little beautiful bills? How come we don't see votes on little things that MAGA or conservatives or Republicans or Christians want, where it's like, hey, this is a really big deal. This is something you guys ran on. Let's push this little beautiful bill through and get something done for our voters. All right. Every now and then I get a home run and get one of the members of Congress that I trust and like to come on the show. Today, that's Congressman Andy Biggs. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Stephen. It's good to be with you.
I know you're a religious man. I know that you are a family man. What was your reaction when it came out near the end of the Biden administration that nearly 400,000 children were missing and that there was no plan to recover them? To me, this is like vile and disgusting. I can't believe the Biden administration just turned a blind eye to this. And I have to imagine a decent percentage of those came up through Arizona under Katie Hobbs' direction. What was your reaction when you heard that?
Well, the first time we heard it, they gave us a number of under 100,000. And then, Stephen, we kept looking because we actually, I learned about this 3 years ago, and we started pressing in Congress, one of the subcommittees that I sit on, give us the information. We brought in the head of OR, Office of Refugee and Resettlement, who copped to, at that time, 250, 300,000. And no idea, no vetting of where these kids were going to. Some of those kids were not really kids. They were adults posing as children. Others, you had babes in arms and infants, Stephen, going to all over the place. You had a Jacksonville strip club. You take something like 12 or 20 of these kids at one time. No vetting. Why was that going on? So it was maddening. And so we tried to get the Biden administration to do something about it. And as you say, they would do nothing. And so this is one of the things I know the Trump administration and Tom Homan has made a priority. But because of the way the Biden administration did it, we don't have addresses on a lot of these kids. We have no vetting of the so-called sponsors of these kids. And so I've talked to Tom Homan, and he's a friend. And so we talk about this. He is so frustrated because of what Biden did. They're having trouble tracking down these kids. Now, they have found some. I think the number he told me, I think, is 7,500. Now, that he is frustrated that it's only 7,500. But the other administration, the Biden administration, wasn't even looking for those kids. And so the other thing is, when you talk about this, we're talking a lot of these kids, and I've stood there at the border and I've watched kids come in, 3, 4 years old, who's shepherding them, a 6, 7, 8-year-old ostensible sibling. They're in a group of people not related to those kids at all. They're unaccompanied. They might have a note on their shirt. They might have something, call this number, whatever. I'm just telling you, Stephen, it is one of the most inhumane things ever. And these guys that continue to defend the Biden administration's policies, they are culpable and they have blood on their hands.
Yeah, I mean, just to help people understand, like, you guys have the Phoenix Suns basketball team. Imagine if 20 stadiums full of children went missing, and the Biden team is just like, forget it. Don't even look for them. Let me ask you about this. Right now, I've been bringing a lot of noise that I believe President Trump and members of Congress, they need to enact some of the stuff that DOJ has brought forward. They need to codify it. They need to go even bigger. I know Elon Musk is frustrated. I know many MAGA members of Congress are frustrated. How can we get more done with DOJ? And do you plan to do DOJ-like procedures in Arizona?
Yeah, I'm glad you raised that, actually, because I was on a texting thread this very morning with a good number of my, you call them MAGA members of Congress, and we were expressing our frustration, first of all, that there weren't enough reductions in the reconciliation bill, so it continues to build the deficit. Number two, that nothing's really been happening on DOJ, that we should be doing DOJ reductions, which is a separate path than the reconciliation. And so we're pushing the leadership to start bringing those to the floor as soon as next week. They need to do that. And then the codification thing, and so some of my colleagues are like, yeah, but the Doge stuff, the numbers are small. And I said, yeah, contextually they're small compared to our massive deficit and national debt, but still they're huge because they're symbolic. They're not only are you taking care of some of the bad waste and fraud and abuse spending, but they're also symbolic to the American people that you are going after the waste, fraud, and abuse. And so politically, it's gargantuan. You have to do it. And then the other thing is, and I been pressing on this with the speaker for a long time. He should be codifying bills. We should have been bringing 2 or 3 codification bills to the floor every week for the last 3 or 4 months. Why? Because you have to let the American people know that you are not dithering, that you're not just leaving it all up to the executive branch. It also, you reclaim some of the legislative authority and you pass it out and you make it there. Now, so believe it or not, they've told me, some leadership have told me, well, Andy, that the Senate takes 60 votes on these codifications. They're never going to give them to us. I said, so what? The House needs to do its job. I cannot control what the Senate does, but you guys are leadership of the House. Do it, get it up there, lay it out there. Let the American people say, well, the House at least is doing what it should be doing. It's the Senate that's the problem. They'll bring pressure to bear, and maybe the Senate will get something done.
Okay, but from a media or a PR standpoint, doesn't it look good to say, hey, we passed it. This is what we fought for our voters, for Trump's voters, and then the Senate, they can defend it however they want, but to not do something, I think makes a lot of people go, what am I even voting for?
Exactly, it's 100% right, and I expressed this to Paul Ryan when he was the speaker. Because I introduced legislation that was perfectly in keeping with our party platform. And that's what the codifications are. They're effectively in keeping with our platform and everything we said we'd do. And if you're not bringing them to the floor in the House, then you demoralize the people who vote for us. And they say exactly what you're saying. And believe me, I'm all over the state these days. And they'll say, Andy, what's with the Republicans in Congress? They're not doing anything. And I tell them, you're right. What can I say? These bills are there. They're drafted. They're ready to go. Some of them have actually been marked up in committee and they're ready to go to the floor. Do it. And I was told often that, well, Andy, here's the deal. We're busy working on the reconciliation. That's okay. You still have to, by rules, you have to bring something to the floor every day just to stay in business, to stay open, so you can keep doing the reconciliation. How about doing some meaningful bills instead of some of these naming post offices or some of these suspension bills that are just, what they are? They're feel-good bills for somebody back home. What we need to do is the codification bills.
Yeah. Well, and I think those codifications are the feel-good for the MAGA, the crew.
Sure.
I don't pretend to know how complex or difficult being a member of Congress is, but there's all this talk about the one big beautiful bill. What about the little beautiful bills? How come we don't see votes on little things that MAGA or conservatives or Republicans or Christians want, where it's like, hey, this is a really big deal. This is something you guys ran on. Let's push this little beautiful bill through and get something done for our voters.
Yeah, well, that's the frustration that I think I have and a number of members of Congress. I mean, and it gets down to this. Leadership will tell me, well, you're in a safe district. We got people who aren't in safe districts and we don't want to put. I'm sorry that they're not in a safe district, but we need them. So we need them to help us get in a majority, but they also need to help us when we're in the majority to actually pass legislation or at least get it out of the House that we said we would do. So this is the thing that drives me absolutely nuts and it doesn't make any sense to me. I will say this, we've done a couple of them. So we did the bill on no nationwide injunctions, right? Now, it wasn't as good a bill as I wanted it to be, but it's there and it's sitting in the Senate now. Well, guess what? That's something that we need to do to protect the America First movement, and the Senate has to bring it forward. But yeah, by and large, in my opinion, we've been missing in action. Our leadership has suppressed some of this good legislative legislation that we should be doing.
Yeah. Losing weight can feel like an uphill battle, especially with the American diet. From nasty seed oils that hurt us to high fructose corn syrup that actually makes us more hungry. Americans have wrecked their gut health. This is where ThermoTrim steps in as a smart, science-backed solution. This USA-made fat burner starts by restoring your gut health. ThermoTrim has a gut bacteria found in thinner people, but not heavier Americans. ThermoTrim helps restore that so you can lose weight. It supports digestion and curbs cravings naturally. Have you tried other products to lose weight and change your health? I have. ThermoTrim is what my body needed. Get ThermoTrim to improve your gut health and start losing weight today. Visit redlineremedies.com or snap the QR code. Make sure to use code Gardner to get an additional 20% off today. We all feel better when we lose weight, and I want you to live a long and happy life. I appreciate you answering that, because I see that all the time in my comments section. You know, it's funny, like, we pay all this money for polling. Like, I've got a big enough audience with almost 2 million. If you just start polling my people, you'll get an idea of what the conservative base wants. And, you know, a good example, I think, is Congressman Lawler up in New York. He's like, well, if I do this thing that Trump wants, I'll lose my election. I'm like, I don't buy it, because New York went more red this time. So leaning into Trump versus leaning away from him, I think actually will help you in the long run. Let me get you out of here on this question. So I love that you are an America First fighter. You love our country. You fight for truth and honesty and transparency. I feel like that's becoming more rare. Sadly, we might be losing you because you're running for governor of the great state of Arizona. What made you decide it's time to run for governor?
There's a number of factors, not the least of which is I think Arizona is being led in a wrong direction by the current governor and the current administration of the triumvirate, which is the governor, the secretary of state, and the attorney general. I think they've pushed us really. They're trying to push Arizona to the left. They're trying to make us, for instance, a sanctuary state. They're trying to. This governor has vetoed legislation that would give us election integrity in the state. This governor disbanded initially the Border Security Task Force, and once I announced I was running, she tried to stand it back up, and it's just not going to work because she's not committed to it, and that's just, she's really taken to the left. She's attacked school choice, doesn't like school choice. She's screwed up the economic growth by fiddling with our water management system. And so you have places, Stephen, right now, it's hard for people to believe this, but there we have municipalities that, because of the water management plan of this governor, they literally cannot build a single family home in that city. And that is because of the way she structured the water management. So there's a lot going on that's taken us in the wrong direction. So that's one thing. The second thing is, I think I know how to clean that up because I served in the state legislature. I was the Senate president, and I have the connections also with the Trump team, his cabinet, my relationship with the president himself. So I felt like I could actually be beneficial to the home state. But the other reason is, Stephen, I look at Congress and it's like, this place may be irredeemable. I sit with a number of my good colleagues, and more than once we'll sit there and we'll look around and say, this country is not going to be saved with this group of people. And that's really the frustration with that. So, but I think we can do more in the state.
Okay, that's interesting. As I dug into Katie Hobbs, I mean, I covered all of the election integrity and shenanigans with the 2020 election and then the 2022 election. When Katie Hobbs gets in, she immediately basically opens the border for Arizona. She took down the previous governor's artificial wall using shipping containers. From what I can see, it seems like she's trying to build a mini Washington, D.C. She wants to be a safe haven for illegal immigrants. Why are Democrats so obsessed with illegal immigrants, especially the criminals? And what can you do to reverse that?
Well, I think there's probably 2 or 3 reasons that the left is so enamored with illegal aliens, not the least of which is they don't have any new ideas. They don't know how to fix the country that they have broken so badly. Number 2, that leads to people fleeing from the Democrat Party or not voting Democrats or becoming disillusioned with the Democrats. So they need new voters. And they really, truly believe this. If you get them aside, they believe that they can maintain a power base with illegal aliens coming in and try to find some kind of path to legalization. That's what they call it or whatever. And so that's a power-based type thing. And I guess the third thing is, and this is more the absolutely radical ones, is they don't really like America. They don't like how we are. They think we're fundamentally wrong. They think we're fundamentally racist. They think that we're authoritarian. Everything that they project on us is what they really are, of course. But that's why they want the illegal aliens. And so when Katie was doing that, it created this problem. So what can I do? Number one, she just vetoed a bill that would have required that local and county police agencies cooperate with ICE, for instance. By the way, that's a federal law already. So as a governor, I can go in and I can say, you're going to have to follow this. And if you don't, then there's consequences, and we will impose those consequences. But the reality is, you have to cooperate. And so when ICE gives you a detainer, you need to hold them. That's one thing we can do is force that. The second thing is you actually get a meaningful cooperation with the state, local, and federal officials to enforce the law and enforce the border. So we can do it. For some reason, we can do it with high intensity drug trafficking. We can do it in just at least to a lesser degree, but similar type of situation with sex and sex and human trafficking. But we somehow the feds impede the imposition or actually deputation of the state and locals, and that has to happen. So we need to put together that kind of task force, that kind of grouping, and really put that forward. And I guess the fourth thing is you provide the resources necessary to do and accomplish those things. And that means at the height of the Biden administration, there were well over 1,000, maybe as many as 2,000 stash houses in the Phoenix metro area. And so what you have got to make sure that the local jurisdictions are helping out and enforcing the law. And there are ways and mechanics to do that in the state of Arizona. And that's what we want. And the citizens want that, by the way. That's an 80-20 issue in Arizona. We want to be safe. We want our border secure. And that'll remain a thing. By the way, the next thing is you need to work with the tribes and those folks, make sure that they have what they need, because we have a lot of mileage on the border of Indian tribes, right? And they are actually the ones that are actually where you see the most human trafficking through there and drug trafficking through those corridors. And we've got to help them and help them stop that and provide them with incentives as necessary to get that done.
Okay. Right now, for the first time in Rasmussen polling history, the majority of Americans believe we're heading in the right direction. I think that's really neat. Do you believe that under your leadership as governor of Arizona will believe Arizona is heading in the right direction?
I do. I very much do. Thanks for that question, Stephen, because what it gets at is what are we going to do? What am I going to do? Well, I tell people this all the time. I know how it works. We're gonna actually have our inauguration. We'll get sworn in at 8:30 in the morning. By 9:30, I expect the legislature to be in their committees, and by the end of that week, I expect because they have to get through their procedure. I expect them to get through the bills on election integrity. I expect them to get to the bill on border security task force, on ICE cooperation, under other bills to protect us from rotten criminals, bills to protect school choice. All of those are going to happen within the first week. And then also, we're going to be dealing with the resources. Arizona's got amazing resources. It blows my mind that Utah just got a uranium mine approved when we got more uranium resources in Arizona than any other state in the union. And so we need to have that. We've got a mine that's been trying to open up for 10 years. We've got copper. We've got more copper than any place. And if you're going to buy an electric vehicle, you got 3 or 4 times as much copper in that vehicle as a normal vehicle. So you need copper. So Arizona's got all these mineral resources that need to be developed. We need to protect our water. And so as we get our water and as we start moving to energy, by the way, Arizona needs to get off this solar wind kick that's going to give us brownouts. And we need to be going and get on the compact nuclear unit module kick, because you start doing that, that's going to give Arizona the power it needs. And we've got high-tech companies that want to come here, and the high-tech AI stuff that's coming in, the chips, the TSMCs, all those folks want to be here. But we have to have water and power. And this administration this current Katie Hobbs administration is incapable of delivering that. And we're going to deliver that. So you're going to get great jobs, great education. This is going to be a place where everybody's going to say, I like living here. I like working here. I like playing here. I like being educated here. I like raising my family here. And, these places that can't build a single family home within their city limits because of the water management area, they're going to be taken care of, because we're not going to kill the American dream in Arizona. We're going to fulfill the American dream in Arizona.
Awesome. Well, I believe you are the man with the skills and the experience and the drive. So I wish you luck. Thank you for coming on the show. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Stephen. You too. Take care. It's always good talking to you.